the infamous duo, the SM7B and the Cloudlifter. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably already know that the SM7B is a very quiet microphone that requires a lot of gain on our preamp to get a healthy signal out of it. And the problem with that is it can sometimes introduce a lot of noise from the preamp. So unless you have some really nice preamps with a lot of gain that's fairly quiet, you're going to find that this can be a bit of a problem when you need to crank it. And that's where the Cloudlifter comes in. We're going to put this between the mic and our preamp, and that's going to give us an extra 25 dBs of clean gain, which is going to boost our mic up nicely so that we don't have to push the preamp quite as hard. In that case, we're not going to introduce as much noise at the preamp. Now, I've actually never felt like I've needed a Cloudlifter because I have a couple of preamps that have a lot of gain and are fairly quiet. It's never really been an issue for me. So there was a music store that I bought a bunch of gear through, and they had a rewards program, and I sent out an email saying, we're closing down the program. If you want to buy something with your points, do it now. And so I had about $100 on there, and I thought, why not buy something little, treat yourself. And I picked up a Cloudlifter for around half price. So without having a real need for a Cloudlifter, I now have one. And I thought, what better than to make a video on it, and let's see if it actually makes a significant difference when we plug this in compared to when we just go straight through the mic into the preamp. So we're going to do a spoken word test. I'm just going to read some stuff, and then we'll plug the Cloudlifter in, read the same thing again, and let's compare and see if there's much difference with the noise and clarity of the mic. And then we might just do a quiet finger-picked guitar example where you'd probably start picking up noise from a preamp if you have to crank it really hard to get a good signal. And the other thing that can be really good about the Cloudlifter is when you start pushing the gain really hard on a preamp, you can start to introduce a bit of saturation, driving that signal a little bit. So this means we don't have to push the gain as hard because we're getting that clean 25 dBs of gain. So even if you are using like a nice preamp, like something like a Great River or a Phoenix Audio, any of that stuff, a 1073, you could put this before it and not have to drive the pre quite as hard. So I guess that's also a cool option. But let's see if we can actually even hear a difference with that stuff. It all sounds really great in theory, but let's test it out. The Cloudlifter is equipped with our patented JFET circuitry that converts phantom power into as much as plus 25 dB of clean, clear gain for your passive microphones. It is extremely useful in boosting the signal of low output dynamic and ribbon microphones, cutting down unwanted noise and coloration from your mixer, interface, or standalone mic preamp, and keeping your signal from degrading over long cable runs on stage or in the studio. The Cloudlifter is equipped with our patented JFET circuitry that converts phantom power into as much as plus 25 dB of clean, clear gain for your passive microphones. It is extremely useful in boosting the signal of low output dynamic and ribbon microphones, cutting down unwanted noise and coloration from mixer, interface, or standalone mic preamp, and keeping your signal from degrading over long cable runs on stage or in the studio. The Cloudlifter is equipped with our patented JFET circuitry that converts phantom power into as much as plus 25 dB of clean, clear gain for your passive microphones. It is extremely useful in boosting the signal of low output dynamic and ribbon microphones, cutting down unwanted noise and coloration from your mixer, interface, or standalone mic preamp, and keeping your signal from degrading over long cable runs on stage or in the studio. So both of these examples are level matched with and without the Cloudlifter. And what I'm going to do now is boost them up about 24 dBs so we can listen to the floor noise and compare them. This is the floor noise with the Cloudlifter engaged. Without the Cloudlifter. Okay, some interesting results going on here. So I had a chance to listen back to the examples I just played you, the spoken word, the acoustic guitar, and the biggest thing to me is the noise floor test that I did. So level matched, boosted both of the signals up about 24 dB when there's nothing happening, so we can really hear all of the air and fuzzy sounds that come along with the preamp gain. And shockingly, it sounds like the Cloudlifter is actually noisier than when we don't have it in the chain. So I thought, this can't be right. And so I started jumping on Google and I found a lot of people complaining about noise with the SM7B and the Cloudlifter. And I thought that just can't be right because everyone goes on about Cloudlifters and the SM7Bs. But I can hear like this ground loopish kind of tone in the noise, and the overall air and fuzziness is a lot more distinguishable than when we don't have the Cloudlifter in the chain. So rather than kind of just being like, oh, the Cloudlifter sucks, let's think and let's test another example. So I thought, what could possibly be happening here? I turned off a bunch of gear. I couldn't find anything that was creating this sort of hum. So I thought, okay, it's just whatever's happening between the Cloudlifter and the SM7B. So I thought, let's plug in a condenser mic into the Unison preamp and have a listen and see if the phantom power is creating some hum as well. So I plugged it in, cranked up the gain, turned up my headphones, couldn't hear any kind of hum, and that was with my Neumann TLM 103. So plugged in a condenser, no issues, no hum. So then I thought, let's grab another mic. So I've grabbed the Telefunken M80, which is another dynamic mic. So then we've got another quick example of me talking with the M80 and then with and without the Cloudlifter, and then listening to the noise floor again. And let's see what happens here. This is the Telefunken M80 through the UAD Unison preamps with no Cloudlifter. This is the Telefunken M80 through the UAD Unison preamps with the Cloudlifter. So annoyingly, the same results. We have more noise in the Cloudlifter than we do in just the Unison preamps by themselves. And so I specifically chose to use the universal audio preamps because I didn't want to use any kind of special boutique pre's, and I didn't use any preamp emulations on that. I wanted to keep it as flat and basic as possible for people who are using just like a standard interface at home to run their mic through, get a kind of similar result to that. Now I'm starting to feel like maybe the Cloudlifter really isn't very helpful because it's adding more floor noise than when we don't have it in the chain. Now, if you have a Cloudlifter, I encourage you to go and test this out yourselves and then come back and report in the comments. Let us know if your signal is a lot cleaner with it or without, because I'm finding no matter what I plug into the Cloudlifter, I'm getting extra noise compared to without. And so the only way I could think for me is if this would be helpful is if my preamps were extremely noisy. But most modern preamps aren't going to be that noisy. It would be if you had a really noisy mixer or something that was terrible, then maybe the noise in this is going to be less than that. But if you're using like a UAD interface or you've got any kind of half decent preamp, I don't think the noise in this is going to be any less than the noise that's in your preamp. So that's kind of disappointing. Wonder where I can flog this for on Marketplace. Does anyone want to buy a Cloudlifter? So I don't know about you guys, but was expecting better results than that. But hey, even if you're still thinking about grabbing a Cloudlifter after this, use my Sweetwater affiliate link in the description below. Buying your gear through that link helps support this channel. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but a small commission comes back to the channel, and that's a massive support. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you guys want to support this channel, check out the description below. There's a link to my website. I have a range of drum samples, mix courses. Grabbing any of those is a massive support for the time that goes into making these kind of videos. If you're keen to stick around for another video, check out this next one coming up, where I'm going to take you through some ways that I like to use multi-band compression in my mixes.